welcome to a full walkthrough tour of Kings Island. We will go around the park and there will be sped up sections, but whenever we cut off a video, we will start exactly where we ended. So that way you get the full tour, and also I'll be talking over some video segments explaining which some places are. To the left is exactly where the main entrance is, and upstairs in the main entrance building is a restaurant. To the right you have a photo booth, a help center, and a fast lane station where you can buy all the fast lanes that you'll be using at your visit. Fast lane prices depend on how busy the park is. Also to the right is a section we'll get to later that we just passed called International Street. That's where the Eiffel Tower is, and also the main entrance area. We instead went to the left, heading towards the zone called Action Zone. On the left here is Kings Island Theater. I don't know how much it's used. I've never really seen it used when I've been at the park. On the left here is a path that goes down to a roller coaster called Vertigo, which is located in Action Zone. We're going to get to that ride later. We are now in Action Zone. To the left here is a restaurant called the Chicken Shack underneath that patio. It serves all different kinds of chicken meals, and also there is a Dippin' Dots stand. To the right you can already see the big purple roller coaster known as Banshee. Right next to Banshee you can see the supports for it. It's a frisbee ride known as Delirium. We're going to get to that probably a little later, and the entrance to Banshee is just up ahead. We'll be there in a minute. On the right here is an ice cream stand and like a food court area where you can get pretzels. And a little to the left here is a coaster merch store called the Coaster Connection. Just to the right here is the entrance and fast lane entrance to the B&M Invert Banshee. It opened back in 2014 as the world's fastest B&M invert and longest. It also has 7 inversions, including a slow 0G roll. Just on the right here is the station building for Banshee, and also the exit for Banshee. There's also a merch store and photos. On the left here is Extreme Skyflyer, an upcharge attraction, and straight ahead is the Action Zone Restrooms. There's another pair of restrooms down by Vertigo, which we'll get to later. And straight ahead is the entrance to the Bat. We are not walking all the way down to the Bat. It is just down this narrow pathway. You can see it through the trees. The Bat is an aero-suspended coaster, opened back in 1993, and it's actually a pretty intense coaster, but still good for families. However, it is a very long walk down there. Turning back around, we are heading past the lockers for Banshee and also the Coaster Connection, which I previously mentioned. As you can tell, instead of going straight back to International Street, we are veering off to the right to see our last coaster in Action Zone up ahead, called Vertigo. To the right is the Drop Tower, which was unfortunately closed on our visit, but I believe it is over 300 feet tall. Also on the right is the water ride known as Congo Falls. Similar to Snake River Falls, it's just a typical shoot-the-chute ride. On the left is another pavilion for the Chicken Shack, and the right is the exit to Congo Falls. On the left here is the second pair of restrooms, and straight up ahead is the entrance, exit, and fast lane entrance for Vertigo. Also on the left, behind the restrooms, is hard to see, but is the path that leads back to International Street. This is one of the few times where we actually jumped in the video, but we are just next to Delirium, right next to Banshee. We are now walking into the back section of the park and the middle area. We're still technically in Action Zone, but we're just about leaving it and going into the next section called Oktoberfest. The reason we jumped is because you would just be seeing the exact same path we just saw before. It's right off of Delirium, this path. To the right is a path that leads back to International Street. We are not going down that path. The only thing down that path is the pirate ship ride called Viking Fury, the exit and entrance, and also a restaurant called the Fest House. Past that, it leads back to International Street, which we'll be seeing at the very end of the video. If you want to see more atmosphere and more cinematic footage, please check out the park footage video link in the description. We are now heading into Oktoberfest. You can see a nice pond on the right, passing all the drink stands, and also Banshee's Drop and Slingshot on the left. Slingshot is another upcharge attraction. Kings Island's layout is basically a big circle, so you're going to see a lot of paths we aren't taking. That's because they basically have no rides or restaurants. They all just lead back to the center Eiffel Tower at International Street. At the end of the video, like I previously mentioned, we will be going back to International Street and checking out most of those paths. On the left is the entrance to the Aero Mine train opening back in 1991 called Adventure Express. It's a good family coaster, pretty smooth, and also has a surprise ending lift hill. On the right, we have the very good Hank's Mexican Grill, and on the left, we have one of the only Coca-Cola refresh stands actually in the park. There are a few smaller ones, but this is the only freestyle. That, again, is another path that leads back to the Eiffel Tower, and we are now out of Oktoberfest and into Coney Mall, which is one of the bigger sections in the park. Straight ahead is a restaurant called Coney Confections, and also to the right is the Coney Mall Restrooms. As you may start to notice, Coney Mall is the main hub in the park for carnival games, such as the basketball game you see on the left, and also some more carnival-type games, such as basketball, climb the ladders, ring toss, all of those. You can see those littered down the middle of the pathway. We will be heading to the right in just a second after we view the Racer, which is straight ahead. That is the fast lane entrance and the regular entrance for the racing wooden coaster, which recently got a repaint this season. It looks beautiful. Across the path on the right is Coney Barbecue, a newer restaurant which also has vegan options, and on the left is a Subway. I rarely see this Subway open though. On the left is a spinning family flat ride called the Monster, which was unfortunately closed for opening weekend. Just across the path is another spinning family flat ride called the Scrambler. On the right across the path is a restaurant which is littered throughout Kings Island, also on International Street, called Skyline Chili, big Cincinnati restaurant in Southern Ohio. Also on the left is the biggest collection of games in the park, this little arcade. There will be another cut in a second because of Area 72, which is just to the left here. This is the newest section of the park and is also, unfortunately, a dead end. That little swing ride you see there is called the Zephyr. It's just a typical wave swinger. We are now entering Area 72, just under Racer, which is a space-themed section, which houses the two most popular coasters in the park. The big blue coaster you see standing tall is Orion. It's over 200 feet tall with a 300-foot drop and is Kings Island's Giga Coaster. It replaced Firehawk in 2020. The only food option in Area 72 is the Meteor Canteen, right there. And straight ahead is the indoor coaster called Flight of Fear. In my opinion, it's kind of a bad ride, it's very jerky, but I know some people like it, especially on hot days. It was also one of the first coasters ever to use a launch. And then straight ahead is, of course, the entrance, exit, and fast lane entrance to Orion, which you can see climbing the lift hill now. Orion is actually set in a big valley, so most of the ride is taking place on a hill, even the queue line. We now are back in Coney Mall, which is where we cut back just now. Right behind us is the split path to Area 72. On the right, just out of frame, is the ride called Dodgems, just a typical bumper car ride. Just to the left is Kings Mills Antique Autos, an antique car ride built back in 2019. The small ride you see sitting on the right there, that's colored in red, is called Shake, Rattle, and Roll. It's a typical Troika family flat ride. Up ahead is another dead end, ending at Windseeker, which is a tall swing ride. We now jump back to the split at Shake, Rattle, and Roll, which is seen right there. Through the trees is the Beast, which was unfortunately closed. We will get to the entrance of that coaster in just a minute. To the right is Jukebox Diner, which is one of the biggest restaurants in the park. This path leads into the biggest section of the park, which is Rivertown, and takes up the rest of the circle all the way to the kiddie section. That big wooden fence you see on the left blocks off Vortex's old plot of land. Vortex closed in 2019 and was a massive aero custom looper. The last ride in Coney Mall is this launch coaster called Backlot Stunt Coaster. It's the main family coaster in the park and is also dashing through the city with multiple launches. We are now entering Rivertown, which is my personal favorite section of the park. On the right is a path that leads back to International Street, along with the first restrooms in Rivertown. On the left is La Rosa's Pizza. On the left here is another arcade, and you can starting to see the footprints on the ground, which means straight to the left down this path is the Beast. Unfortunately, the Beast is closed due to renovations, but will be open again in May, so definitely get out there and try the new renovations. Straight above us is the Helix to Diamondback. We will get to that ride later. Going straight again after that little detour to the Beast is the rest of Rivertown. Straight to the right is the iconic Diamondback Splashdown, and right above us is the drop to Diamondback, which goes straight over the paths. On the right is an Auntie Anne's pretzel stand. Up ahead is also a new funnel cake store. On the left is the old Crypt Dark ride, which was removed. Also on the left is the covered pathway all the way back to Whitewater Canyon, which is a water river raft ride underneath Mystic Timbers, which we're getting to later. On the right is the funnel cake store I mentioned, and on the left is a store called Potato Works. On the left is the first station to the railroad. That railroad takes you to Soak City, so we are actually not seeing the second station on this trip. Also on the left is the second and last Coca-Cola Freestyle station in the park. On the right is a restaurant called the Brew House, and on the left is my personal favorite coaster in the park, Mystic Timbers, a GCI wooden coaster which opened back in 2017. On the right is the previously mentioned Brew House, and on the left is the entrance for Race for Your Life Charlie Brown, which is a log flume. There's going to be a split path coming up. We are going to go down the right side, which leads straight into Planet Snoopy. The left side we are going to get to in a minute. That leads to the outside of Planet Snoopy, where more of the smaller rides are. We're going to get into the center, that way we can show you everything. Before we go down the right side path, we need to show you Linus Launcher, which is a spinning flat ride on the right, and the Flying Ace Aerial Chase Coaster, which is a suspended family coaster just up ahead. Now we are going to go down the right path. On the right is the entrance to the B&M Hypercoaster Diamondback, which we previously saw. Also on the right is a rare Tom and Chi restaurant in Amusement Park, which serves tomato soup and grilled cheese. On the left is the Planet Snoopy Restrooms. On the right is the Planet Snoopy Grill. There is also a Snoopy track ride, which you can see roaming around up above the area. Straight ahead is the Snoopy Boutique, and straight to the left is Snoopy Snacks. To the left here is the path that leads back to Flying Ace Aerial Chase. To the left is also the path that leads to Soak City and the second train station. Straight ahead is the Surf Dog, a ride similar to Pipe Scream. Underneath Surf Dog is the smallest rides in the park for the youngest of guests. To the left is the entrance to Peanuts 500. Now we are going straight and we're heading back towards International Street. Just on the left here is the entrance to the biggest kiddie coaster, Woodstock Express. On the left here is a smaller Dodgems ride for kids and a small swing ride. Now, there's going to be another cut in the video. You can either go to the right or straight. We are first going to go to the right. Both of these go to the exact same place. Going straight will lead to International Street, where you can go to the Eiffel Tower or the entrance. Going to the right will lead to the Eiffel Tower. This castle you see here is for Boo Blasters on Boo Hill, the small shooting dark ride. We just turned right and are heading for the Eiffel Tower. On the left here is the entrance to the smallest coaster in the park, the Great Pumpkin Coaster. On the right is a place where you can get the famous Kings Island Blue ice cream, and coming up straight ahead is Chick-fil-A just past the sign. As you can see, we are now at the very tip of International Street, right at the Eiffel Tower. We are going to come back to the Eiffel Tower after we show the second possible path. We are now going straight at the previous split. On the right is the Sweet Spot Candy Store. We are going to go to the right here. To the left, there is Build-A-Bear Workshop, La Rosa's Pizza, and multiple other souvenir stores. For this last part of the tour, we are walking up International Street on the right side, looking around the Eiffel Tower, showing all of the branching paths to the outer ends of the circle, and then walking back down the left side of International Street to the entrance. Behind us is also the entrance. Like I mentioned, it's just souvenir stores and pizza. We are now at the Eiffel Tower. Just on the other side of the tower drinks is the entrance to go up to the Eiffel Tower. To the right there, that path leads back to Planet Snoopy. Now we are looking back on International Street. The path directly that way leads back to Racer, and the one just to the right of that leads to Grand Carousel, which is the dome you see there, and Orion. We are now on the home stretch of the tour, continuing our way down International Street. Just behind us is the only path I did not mention while next to the Eiffel Tower. That path leads back to the Beast and Diamondback area. This gift shop straight ahead is the Kings Island Emporium. On the right is another gift shop in Auntie Anne's Pretzels. Of course, there are going to be some shops I missed, so you'll just have to find them for yourselves while at the park. To the right here is the path that leads to Adventure Express in the Oktoberfest area. On the right is everyone's favorite place to relax, Starbucks. And the last spot on the tour, just to the right, is Skyline Chili. Now we are back at the front entrance. To the right, that path leads back to Action Zone, exactly where we started the tour. If you enjoyed and learned something, please make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Comment what you think of Kings Island and this tour, and make sure to have a great rest of your day.